Hi, Tia. Thank you very much for coming on NAR Fellowship. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. And what I'd like to do is to introduce you a little bit how we met and then go into some questions. Um, I met TR. He invited me on his Hump Day Calls podcast to talk about the Writers of Meaning book that I did with my group, writers group. And I really enjoyed the experience. He's a great interviewer, and I would like to talk to him about his learning journey as a podcaster, and also his what he likes to learn from his guests. And Tia, you are a very talented interviewer and podcaster, as well as an author, and you're a creative professional yourself. I'm wondering if you might be willing to tell us a little bit about yourself. And also, my first question would be after that is what was your learning journey like in starting the podcast and the motivation behind Hump Day Calls?
Okay. So, as far as background goes, I was in civil service in the military for some years, and then my wife got transferred across the United States. We were on the East Coast. She got transferred to the West Coast with her work. And I always thought that I was going to do 20 years in civil service and then do something else. But I got to about 14 years, and then she got the opportunity to go farther in her job. So she won the career. I wouldn't call it a battle, but the career contest of whose career was more important at the time. And so she's had some good times with that. We've been all around the U.S., and then we're back on the East Coast now in Florida. And when we started, that was in 2012 when we moved out to Washington. She said, if we'll move to the West Coast, then you can start writing. So I'd always been writing before that, as far as I can remember, like even back in kindergarten and such, writing stories or whatever. And then I was like, okay, I'll try to write a novel and we'll see how that goes when we're out there. And that took about a year or two from start to finish to get that done and published. And then worked on some poetry books and other science fiction type novellas, a couple of books with other, collaborating with another writer, so co-author, and then doing some script stuff now for a 30-minute TV show, and also doing the podcast, just talking to creative people, because that was one of the great things about being a writer or having the time also where you're not doing the normal 9 to 5. I mean, still, I guess I was a house husband, taking care of the dogs, and when we were living in the RV, doing all that. And now it's taking care of the house and the dog and writing. So you got to carve that time out for it. And I found it difficult, or we found it difficult, to have somebody with a career, to have 2 serious careers, because you needed to be able to move around with her job. She works for the railroad, and it just made more sense for her to be the one building her career than me doing the policing stuff, because you could police anywhere. But then I did think, once I get to a certain age, policing is probably better for the younger folk, or maybe there's just a certain amount of time you do policing and then go on to something else. So did a little bit of police training out there on the West Coast too, but then we moved back here. So it seemed like every time I started getting into a career that took a lot of time, then we'd move again. So now done some lifeguarding out here, and then taking care of the house, taking care of the dog, things like that. And then the podcast, I had time to do it. And when I started writing, I was in some writing groups like on meetup.com, and you get to meet different types of writers and different creative people, strange people. And that's the good part about those meetup groups. And then I was missing that during the lockdowns where we didn't have those anymore. And then I started thinking about doing the podcast. And you can think about doing a podcast for a long time, but you're not going to do it until you do it. So then I started doing it maybe a year or a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. And a lot of stuff to learn. So that was fun, learning about which programs to use, how to upload it. I think it's a lot easier now than it was back in the RSS feed time, where you had to know a little more about coding and about the technical side of things. And you could still now go as technical as you wanted to if you were making a podcast. But I think the primary goal behind the podcast was just to talk to creative people, figure out or talk about other people's ideas of creativity, where it came from, and see their processes for writing, or if it's painting or whatever creative venture. I think everybody has things they do that's creative. So it's a broad topic.
Cool. That's a lot. Thank you very much for explaining all that. I have a couple of questions I'd like to go into before I go into my usual questions.
Okay.
Um, so you actually had several different learning journeys: learning how to write and publish, learning how to do a podcast, and do all that. I was kind of let's talk about hump day calls a little bit first, and then we'll get into the writing.
Okay.
Um, but you have this really interesting logo where you have like it looks like previous guests are on a green background with Hump Day Call title, and I thought that's kind of cool. What prompted you to want to do that as your logo?
I think it was more of something where there's a bunch of different apps that do it, but Graphite is the one I use that takes a picture and turns it into a drawing or other
Oh,
things too. And I've used it for doing book covers and such. And if I were able to draw what I think would resemble the person that I was talking to, then I would do that myself. But I don't have that talent, or I haven't tried to develop that. So I use the app to do it. And then it's just, what can you do to show the progression of a show besides getting better and knowing all these different topics or talking to these different people about different topics? Then how can you show the movement of something, the growth of it? So that's what that is. And it starts with the first guest, and every guest has a small on the overlay, which goes on StreamYard before the show starts. And then I have it also in the YouTube and X, like the banners for those sites. I have it in there too, and I update it. So
hmm,
I think just a little something that is interesting. It's fun to do because those programs are fun. Even if you're using it with just other pictures that you do, it's a good practical application of it.
yeah. What prompted you to want to do the podcast? I'm not sure if you actually totally covered that in your introduction. I was, so what? Why did you want to talk to other creatives?
Just to see what their process was. Like, I spent a lot of time looking at YouTube videos of, it started with probably writers and poets, of what their writing areas, like where they write, do they have a writer studio, and what was their process for, like, how do they get into the zone of writing? Do they always like show up at the same time, or do they schedule time aside to do it? Do they go by word count or by topic or time, or how do they do it? So that's another way you can procrastinate very well when you're writing, is look at what other people do, and then it feels like you accomplished something when you actually didn't. So I used it as kind of a reward for when I sat down and did whatever my goal was for writing that day, that if I accomplish that, then I can look at these other things and see what other people do. And if there are things that I didn't do or I hadn't tried, then I would go, oh, let's see if that works. Like Quentin Tarantino has some pretty great advice for writers and ways he used to write and the way he writes now, that are just, it's interesting to think about how to do that. Try it yourself and see if it works. Like sometimes you write just at night. Maybe you get up early and write in the morning. Maybe you're writing all throughout the day or whatever. So I found that it depends on what I'm writing as to when I write, but usually
Hmm.
I'm writing like sit down to write probably between like midnight and 4 a.m. is when I do most of my writing. But I don't think it'll always be like that. And it wasn't always like that, but that's just what's going on now.
Hmm. Cool. So, as we shifted over to the writing, let's ask a couple quick questions on the writing. So, which do you actually prefer? Do you prefer the actual art of writing, or do you actually enjoy making it into a manuscript, turning it from a manuscript into a book to publish it?
I think all those parts are that's part of each thing has its own little creative part. I like writing, and when it kind of takes off to a place that you didn't plan on it going, that's fun. Or when you get into that zone and you write 4 or 5 pages and then you're like, whoa, how'd I get here? How'd these 4 or 5 pages happen? Or two characters or more like have a conversation and it goes somewhere you didn't think it was going to. That's a fun part about writing, at least for the book type stuff. And then practicing different writing exercises and trying to get better at writing, whether you're working on descriptions or dialogue or whatever, then that's fun to work on those little pieces. That's why I think it's nice to be able to do regular prose like you're writing a book. It's also nice to write an essay that explains something or thoughts on things. Although I don't think I've published any essays because I just talk about those more. But writing helps you figure out what you think or how to think. So it's nice to write those things down. And then poetry, I feel like, is different than book writing because it's connecting to something else, I think. And then screenwriting, most recently, it's a whole nother language of writing. Like just the format of it and the things you think about. So it's just trying to keep it fresh. And I think as you add those abilities to how you write, it makes all the different parts of writing better.
Cool. What do you notice a theme in your writing, or like certain topics or things tend to pop up a lot more in your writing?
I think existence is probably one.
Hmm.
And then like, why are we here? That type of stuff. And
Yeah.
then truth and justice is probably a big topic. Like why are we here and why do things occur and what's right and what's wrong? That's probably in there. Those are the things that can get you or that I get to where I have an emotional response thinking about. So I think you get that emotional response first, and then you have to have that curiosity of looking into why do I feel that way about that? And then if you feel like that, somebody else is going to feel like that too. So go
Hmm.
ahead and explore it.
Have you always been interested in writing since a young person, or is it something you got into later in life?
I wrote a lot when I was younger. I don't have a whole lot of those things that I wrote, but as a kid, using the imagination, whether you're playing Transformers or Legos or GI Joe, the figures, the action figures, not the dolls, and then like role playing games before video games. I was never much of a video game person, so I like the idea of being able to create your own world in dialogue or your own story for what's going on. I didn't write any books when I was a kid. I think the first book I wrote was the one in 2014. So that's, but research papers in school. I wrote a lot for work with investigations and just, I mean, policing has a lot of paperwork. So
Mm.
you can either hate it or embrace it. And I tried to embrace it. I like a good report. So writing is kind of like that, except more exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you have a really great relationship with your wife, and um, you both can flourish in your gifts and do the different things that you're good at. Um, and what was some of the so I'm going to kind of shift a little bit to a couple of my questions, and if they fit, great. If not, I will shift to different things.
Okay.
But um, what are your learning pursuits, personally and professionally? So, professionally as a writer, as a podcaster, and personally as things that you're like, maybe like home repairs or something like that. But
Mm.
what,
Like, what kind of things am I learning lately?
yeah.
I'm always working on the house. So
Mm,
we've moved maybe 12 times since 2012.
wow.
So we've been in a lot of different places, and the last two moves were in houses that we owned. So you're able to do more to them than if you're renting somewhere. And now, like, learning about swimming pools. This is the first house we've had with a pool. So I've been learning about that, just the operation of it, how to replace all the parts, and then how to maintain it. And then general stuff around the house. Like, we've had houses before when we were in Virginia, and we did a lot of repairs to them and maintenance. So just either relearning that or getting better at doing it, whether it's putting a doorway in, putting trim up, or building walls or whatever. So
Mm,
that part of life. And then personal, I guess personal would be personal and professional as writing. So trying to lately writing a screenplay for a TV show. As I said before, new thing to me. I didn't think it would be as different of writing as it is, but so getting better at that. And then learning about, like, even if I didn't publish the books, I would probably still want to make them. So I think that's a personal and professional thing. I mean, I've made tens of dollars writing. So I don't know how you measure success with that. I mean, my
yeah.
mom's bought every copy. So that's pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah.
But, and then professionally, I think it's, do what I can to support my wife and her job, kind of keep as little as possible on the stress level at home, take care of the dog. Every now and then I get a part-time job doing something. I've worked in a warehouse, done the lifeguarding, EMT, other things like that. But it's, as I said, it's, you get into those things and then the circumstances changes and you move somewhere. So you have to pick up something else. So it's
Mm,
okay.
yeah. You have the, one of the things is some of the advice for different writers is to have a lot of experience doing many different things. And you have cultivated that over the years. It's like a lifeguard, EMT, warehouse work. It's like you you get a little more of a breadth and depth of humanity in different people and workplaces and whatnot. So that's helpful. And
Yeah. It's
that's
that classic thing of never stop learning. I think
yeah,
that's true. You-
yeah,
If you either get better at something, so practice something and get better at it, or learn something new, yeah, it's good. It's good to
yeah,
be, as my wife says, it's good to be handy.
yeah,
Like, if you something happens or breaks at the house, it's nice to be able to fix it yourself instead of call
yeah.
somebody to do it. But
Right. So my next question is, what have you learned that gives you meaning?
it gives me meaning. Well, I think a lot about existence. So learning what different people think about that has been interesting. And then meaning wise, I think empathy, like developing empathy, is probably a thing that I worked on mainly in policing, was trying to look at things from other people's perspective. And I think that makes you a better person if you're more considerate of others. Certainly you can go overboard with that. Like in policing, if you were too empathetic, you would end up not doing anything. Like, you wouldn't arrest a person that did a crime because you're too empathetic. So you got to
But
walk that line there.
Yeah.
And then service to the country, I think, is important. So I think that's good. The military stuff was good. It was not what I expected it to be, but it was still okay. I'm glad I did it. I'd probably do it again if I could. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
That's interesting. I like reading about and learning about how to do things to hopefully make a better life for myself and my family. Um, it gives it gives me purpose. It gives me hope. Um, I I'm curious about the existential existence. Um, I'm saying the wrong word. I apologize. Um, where that came from? Why why do you think you're so focused on that?
I wonder if we all think about that and we just don't recognize it as much. Like if you don't have enough as much time to think about it,
Hmm.
maybe it comes from curiosity or questioning, and also again developing that empathy of understanding why we're here. Like if you have a purpose, it's nice to have a purpose. So why do you have a purpose and what is your purpose? And I think that just extends out of questioning that.
Hmm.
So, you know,
See,
why do you think we're here? Why do you think we exist?
that's a good question. I revert to the Bible answers: is love God and love people.
Okay.
Um, but uh, I think we. I don't really have a canned answer except for that one. If I was to speak personally, um, I would say to live, to dream, to learn. That's what that's kind of like where how my mind and my heart works. Is I love to dream. I love to think and learn, and I love to be in conversations with other people like yourself. Those are
Yeah.
the three things. For me, it's that's why my purpose seems to be. Um, Also, I have a duty to my family to help take care of them. We have a lot of health issues and stuff, and so we take care of each other. Um, but I see that more as a family duty than a purpose in my life. I know some people are helpers because they generally want to be. I'm a helper because I have to be. And I, I generally care about my family, so I want to take care of them. Um, but
Service is a good one.
yeah,
I mean, to make the world a better place. It's the classic, help somebody else out. That's good.
right, yeah,
I think that's a good reason to be here. And then I think that what I would say is it's experience and perspective, which I think is the same thing that you're saying in different words. So
mm,
to experience life, learn all that stuff, and then I guess experience and perspective are largely the same thing. It's just two different angles of looking at the same thing, which is just to experience what it's like to be here. Whitman has a great poem called "Oh Me, Oh Life," which is it's not it's like a page long, but it answers those questions of that you're here, that life exists,
and what's it
and
called again?
"Oh Me, Oh Life,"
Oh, me a life.
just
OWE.
O apostrophe, "Oh
Oh,
Me, Oh
oh me,
Life."
me a
Yeah,
life. Oh, interesting.
yeah, it's a
I'll
good
have to
one.
check that out sometime.
Yeah, it's as far as Whitman goes, I would say that's my favorite Whitman poem.
Oh, cool. What
But
about you? What do you feel like your purpose or motivates you to just, you know, what makes you tick and hum and feel like yourself?
hmm, well, I think the learning is part of it. Find something that gives your life purpose. Like if you're if you're feeling wayward, then find a project to work on. So
Mm,
that's why service is always good, because it's not just
yeah,
about helping you, it's about doing other things. And
yeah.
through service, I mean, it's not all selfless, because you learn things too. So it's
Mhm,
developing your abilities and personality as well,
yeah.
character, whatever you want to call it. So I like a good plan, and I like a purpose. I like to learn.
Cool. So I have a couple quick questions for you. Um, what challenges do you need to overcome, and what's holding you back?
Maybe laziness.
Mm.
Laziness is
Uh,
probably the big one.
I can so empathize with you on that one. Yes.
Yeah. If you got something to do and then you're just putting it off, but
Yeah.
then after you start doing it, you go, okay, it's enjoyable to do this, even if it's like a work project around the house,
Mm,
that it has that little bit of the beginning and end of a project. So you're working towards something, and then you just have to have the discipline. I don't know if motivation is a thing. Maybe it's just discipline to do it. And then I think if you do enough, you start to realize that I don't need to put this off. I can just do it. And then I think it's easy to get into that mode of, I have time to do it, so I'm going to stretch out the job and do it that way. I mean, and
oh,
sometimes I think that's okay, but yeah, and laziness is probably the biggest thing to overcome. I think they call it in the creative world resistance. I think
oh, yes.
the war of art, or
Yes, I've
whatever
read
that book
that.
is. Okay,
Yeah, it
resistance.
was a good book.
Yeah,
I was like, "Huh, this I like Resistance." He's like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
yeah, that book could probably be, one third the length. I
Yeah,
mean, it wasn't that long to begin with, but it gets repetitious. But maybe it
yeah,
follows the idea of, tell you what I'm going to tell you, and tell you what I told you.
right.
But maybe I just need to hear it once, and I can read it 3 times
Yeah,
if I want to.
yeah, yeah. So, other than laziness and resistance, what internal and external problems do you face?
Let's see. I guess everybody gets older, so you have that issue of where maybe some of the things that you would do, or would want to do now, you can't, because you have some sort of limitation. Like, whether it's you join the military again, but maybe you're too old to do that, or maybe you've gotten injured somehow and you can't do that one thing that you want to, and then you have to find something else that is meaningful, and get back to
Mm,
that whole have a purpose again.
mm,
But internal and external, and then maybe it also comes down to time and money. But I don't know. I don't know if money is as big a block as people think, because when you're starting out in life, at least this is how it was for me, like starting out working, I didn't have a lot of money. And now I wouldn't say we're rich, but we have enough financing to be able to get the things that we think we want. And a lot of time when you get those things, you go, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And I
mm,
don't know if it's better to not have the money and not be able to get those things, and always wonder, would life be better if I had this thing? Or if it's better to get it and then be disappointed about it, or realize that you really didn't need it. I don't know.
mm,
Maybe you go back to that. It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. If you go
mm,
with that idea, then maybe it's better to be able to have enough ability, time, and money to be able to do some of those things you want to do. And then maybe you realize that you don't need those things to be happy or to feel fulfilled, or you wouldn't even want them now. Like, if I was a kid and you gave me $1 billion, I'd have said, well, I'm going to need a lot of cars. probably some trucks, a big garage, and things like that. And now I would look at it and go, wow, even if I had that, I don't think I want all that. I, I, I have one car, that's good enough. And yeah, I
Mm.
think that's maybe it's the contentment. You reach that point of contentment, but I'm not sure how far you have to what you how much do you have to waste on things that you realize you don't need before you realize you don't need everything you think you need.
That's a good question. I actually right now I'm reading Richard Foster's Freedom of Simplicity. It's not just about decluttering. It's about decluttering and having a state of, getting into a state of contentment with what you have, with how much or how little you have, and um, releasing things that you don't need or want anymore, and not hoarding. Um, and there's like, so there's like, I come from an emergency preparedness background, so it's like you do want to have some stuff available for yourself, like, you know, um, eggs or toilet paper or whatever it might be, but
Mhm.
you only have so much room in your home, whether it's a small little apartment like mine or a little bit bigger place like yours. You only have so much storage space, and we tend to get our eyes bigger than our stomach, and in order to feel more secure, we kind of hoard stuff. Um, and so, where's the practical of like having enough for what you need versus where you really should be just maybe giving your old clothes that are in decent shape to a Goodwill, and so other people can use it who are in need of nice clothes. You know, it's kind of that dichotomy thing. And I notice in myself, I like books a lot. I have tons of stuff in storage, and I'm slowly making my way through storage, um, decluttering lots of old stuff. We have 40 years of stuff. I make trips with a friend. I don't drive because of vision issues, but a friend drives me to storage and helps me sort through papers and stuff. And you know, I slowly decluttering. Um, and we accumulate a lot of stuff through the years, thinking that we need it. And and when we live in a small apartment, you can't just like put stuff in the basement. and but the freedom of simplicity is not about extreme minimalism nor the extremes of having, a mansion full of stuff. As being content with what you have. Yes, you can splurge and get a little stuffed animals as, for yourself or your friend's little kid. Um, but it's like I was trying to figure out my 50th birthday is coming up. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for my 50th birthday because it's one of those milestones. And I'm like, I'm not really coming up with anything I really want to do. And it's like, is it okay to just not do anything special for the 50th birthday? It's like I'll have a celebration with my friends, and that's fine. Um, but do I really need to go do something, or do I need to have something to commemorate my 50th birthday? And from the freedom of simplicity, it's a discipline, like fasting or silence or basically, one of the spiritual disciplines is being content with how little and how much you do have, and letting go of what you don't need to bless other people. And, you know, um, and that's something I'm working through because one of the things I learned about from Marie Kondo's uh, manga of her book was people tend to collect stuff and hold on to stuff for two reasons. One is having trouble letting go of the past, and also having living in fear of the future. And I'm like, I am so both of those.
Hmm.
So to layer your question was like, I think if we live attached to our past and not letting go of the past, or we live in fear of the future, or both, like me, um, or you know, we we we're dealing with other emotional things where we're using the accumulation of stuff as a band-aid for lack of purpose or lack of meaning or lack of autonomy in our life. Sometimes it's just fun to just go and shop. I like my grandmother used to do it. I like to go shop and just see what's out there and maybe buy something, that I kind of want or need. Um, I, uh, it's fun when you find something on sale, you know, but do you really need it? Does, you know, I try to buy things that I will probably use or get enjoyment out of and not just sit on my shelf for all. It's like, well, I have enough clutter in my room. But
Yeah, it's
that's a
I like
long
Marie.
answer, rambling answer for you. Yeah.
I like Marie's Kondo's. Does it spark joy? I
Yeah.
think that's a good one. And
Yeah.
then when you start thinking about, well, I could have had this thing and I would like to, I guess, keep it, but I don't foresee ever using it again,
Yeah.
or I might use it one day. Then maybe you just can donate it, find somebody that can use it, or donate it otherwise. And then if you ever need it again, you could get it again.
Right.
And a lot of, I think shopping is okay, everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yeah.
So if one of the things I find is if I find something that makes my life easier, that's exciting. Like if I
Mm.
find a razor that works a certain way, or a certain type of shorts that are like, well, these are great. Like these are your favorite. These are those things that spark joy. That
Mm.
then, if I was going to give somebody a present, like if I was going to, usually for me, how it works is I find it and I go, wow, I've been really looking for this thing my whole life, and here it is, and it makes my life easier. So now I need to pass that knowledge along to someone else, and either it's telling my brothers that, hey, I found this thing that, this tool or whatever, and I think you might like it, you should check it out. And then sometimes I just send it to them and I go, this needs to be reviewed, check this out. Like
Yeah.
a razor that is, Remington makes one that's in a crescent, and you can use it for cutting your hair easy, because
Mm.
learn how to cut your own hair. And I wish I learned earlier, but then I just send them those razors and I'm like, hey, you might find this useful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't know if that's their journey in life where they're trying to find things that make their lives easier, but uh,
Mm.
that's fun when
Yeah.
you find something like that. And then moving so many times, when we moved from Virginia, we had lived in that house for 12 years, and you can build up a
Mm.
lot of stuff in 12 years. And we got rid of a whole lot of stuff, and we moved a whole lot of stuff. And I don't think I would move like that after that. We got really good at moving. And I think a lot of times now I would just get rid of everything and then get new stuff wherever you're moving to. Depending
Mm.
on if you're moving down the street, you just move the stuff you got. But if you're moving across country, it's going to cost $3,000 plus fuel to get the U-Haul to go over there. And maybe you just look at your stuff and go, is that $3,000 worth of stuff? Or can I just get rid of that and start over again? And
Mm.
then you get the hit of shopping and finding something new and then going, oh,
Yeah.
I'd like this. But I do like to have room to breathe. So
Yeah.
I don't want to pack a room full of stuff. And then it is true that the stuff you own has a weight to it. Like it ends up owning you. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
classic statement. I agree with it. And when you get rid of stuff, I haven't, there's only been a few times where I've like, oh man, I should have kept that. But then I could get it again if I wanted it, but I haven't gotten it again. And it's been years.
Mm.
And then there's times where you're like, I'm saving this up because I know I'm going to need it one day. and then you get rid of it, and then you need it the next week. And I don't know if that's really how it works, or if that's just your mind saying, don't get rid of stuff in the future because you're going to need it. So I
Yeah.
like looking at those minimalist things because it's interesting to see how they think about it. And then you can figure out how you feel about things too. If you don't get rid of everything, get rid of a couple things and then go, oh, is this making me feel good, or am I a hoarder? And then you can always just watch Hoarders, and then immediately, like halfway through the show, I'm ready to start. I'm cleaning up. I gotta get rid of this. I gotta get rid of this. Let's get this TV out of here.
Yeah. There's another pastor, not a pastor, a Christian named Joshua Becker. He wrote a couple minimalist books, and he's got a YouTube channel. I like watching his stuff periodically because he has a nice balance of like understanding things from Christian family living to minimalist simplicity mindset. Um, and minimalism and simplicity are not the same thing. So
Mm,
it's not about having bare bones nothing. It's about adjusting to the life that you actually live and not getting into a hoarder mindset, which is hard because I'm in the process of slowly decluttering um, both my own home and also the storage units we have. But and that's been a learning journey. It's like I letting go of stuff. I tend to get emotionally attached to things because they have meaning to the people who gave it to me. Um, and so that makes it kind of harder to let go of stuff because I feel like I'm violating that relationship.
mm.
Um, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about that, and different people, and I can't remember who they are. But that's one of my learning journeys is decluttering, and um, I'm really enjoying the Freedom of Simplicity book because it's not just belongings and objects; it's also your mind, and also letting go of thoughts, letting go of things you want. Being content with however whatever you actually have. Um, and so kind of like I discovered there was someone had a roadside store thing of selling bonsai trees, and I'm like, I'd love to have a bonsai. I have no place in my apartment to keep one, especially near a window, and it's not going to happen. But I still would like it. It's just I like the idea of it more than the actual practice of actually having one.
Take a picture of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you
I've
got it. You can
Yeah, I've been
reflect
to
on
a
it.
couple botanical gardens here in my state, and they have a bonsai collection, so I do have pictures of bonsai trees. It's good enough for me. So, um, I I have a couple questions about writing. If we can circle back to that, if that would be
Okay.
okay.
Yep.
Um, sorry about that. Um, so some technical curiosity questions, because like I'm working on my own book. I'm probably a year out from actually doing anything with it. But did you find any helpful tools or resources? Like you had that graphite program app to help create images and stuff. You said you used it for your a book cover. What exactly is it? Is it like a Photoshop or a GIMP or something, or is it something else?
You can you put in a picture, and then you can choose different vignettes for it. Like you could turn it into a charcoal picture or a pastel or a sketch,
Oh,
or and then you can change around all the exposures and everything. So you can change the picture a lot. And
oh, okay.
so that's fun.
Oh, okay, cool. So
And
that's
then
what you did for your book covers?
yep, for let's see, all of those book covers, I think I used a program like that, or I did it myself on like a PowerPoint or something.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I'm, I'm sure you could. Not everybody wants to do their own cover, so then
Right.
they would get other people to do it, other local artists, or
Mm,
find something online that you like or wherever. But
mm.
I I like the part of being able to do the book cover. I find that that is something that keeps me going because when I'm writing the story, I'm thinking about, well, what would be a good cover for this? And I'm not worried about the commercial success of it so
Mm.
much. So I'm just thinking, what would I like?
Oh.
What do I think is going to be cool? And what can I do? Like maybe what I think would be cool is past my ability, but how close can I get to it? So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that one of the the two expenses that authors have is editing and book covers, and so I was
Mhm.
curious how you work that, and doing it yourself probably helps keep costs down.
Yep. And if you're going for a basic book cover, if you go to Amazon and you're publishing on KDP,
Hmm.
and I'm sure there's other programs, but Amazon has one that does the book cover for you, and it has different designs you can use. You can bring in your own pictures and
Oh,
you can
interesting.
change them around. So that's that's become a lot easier than it was when I first started using
Oh,
KDP,
interesting.
probably in 2014, maybe it was the first time I looked at it. And
Mm.
then that first book I self published through a publishing house, which good experience. I wouldn't do it again, but it's, I've since republished it on Amazon through KDP a few
Mm.
years after that. But it's, and I haven't had the experience of a publishing company saying, we want to give you this much money to write a book about this. So I don't
Mm.
know what that's like. But
Yeah.
all the books I've done have been self published. Almost all of them started on Amazon KDP.
Mm.
It's the 80% or more of the book market is Amazon, plus it's print on demand. You
Mm.
can format your book the way you want. You can price it mostly the way you want,
Mm.
and you can pick the size, do the cover, all that. So that's fun. I think
Cool.
the fun part of writing, because
Cool.
you've worked on this story for however long. What
Yeah.
helped me most for writing the actual stuff of the book is pre-writing, outlining, but not so much that you never start writing.
Mm.
And then I would do by word count is how I did that first novel. And I tried to do 3,000 words a day.
Oh,
And
wow.
that worked well. I ended up with a lot more stuff than I used. So you got to go back and edit it. I was going to do, you make it 3 books. And then I was like, nobody's going to read this. So I made it 1 book.
Oh.
And it wasn't in 3 different parts. I mean, I got rid of 2 books worth of material,
Mm.
but and the story's always going to be bigger to you as the writer. You're going to know more about it than anyone else.
Mm.
So it's not always going to be in the pages. So find something that makes sense, which is the some good creative writing advice I got from a creative writing teacher, which was it what matters is does it make sense? Even with
Mm.
punctuation or the story or whatever, the overwhelming always is does it make sense? So
Mhm.
if you can follow it, that's good.
Good. That's
So
helpful.
yeah, I would use the self-publishing. Amazon, I think because I've used it so many times is the easiest for me. There's
Mm.
other ones out there for sure, but
Cool.
yeah, I like it.
So, um, you see it you see it more as a creative outlet than an income generating, um,
Well, I
is
have
it
made tens of dollars writing.
cool.
So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've had to claim it on my taxes. So
Oh, of course. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
brought in $19 one year. So
Nice.
yeah,
Very cool.
it depends on how you measure success. Like
Yeah.
think of all the writers that weren't well received when they wrote it or had things published after they were dead. So
Mm.
now people don't have to worry about publishing it after I'm dead because it's already out there.
Yep. Yeah. So, what, I'm not sure which direction to go with, but, um, we were kind of talking about this, and maybe I'll interject this question into it. Is what are some resources, types of tools, and things that you've found that have been helpful in your different various learning journeys, whether it be writing, podcasting, um, home repair, uh, moving. Some people have to move a lot like you do. Um,
I mean, the internet machine has a lot of things, and then YouTube probably is a big one because you can look at videos about how to simplify your life, whether it's, paring down, getting rid of stuff, how to donate things, how to prepare for packing, how to write where other writers write, all those things you can find on there. And maybe there's other, whether it's Rumble or other places that are like that, just looking at advice from other people that have done it
mm,
a different way than reading a book. Read a book
mm,
about it too. Those are good ideas. Before we moved all the time, I would have a list of good advice for moving, and I'd, review that before I moved every time and update it for what worked and what didn't. And
mm,
then for writing, I mean, Stephen King's book on writing was pretty good. I read that before or while I was writing the first one. I don't agree with him on everything, but you can't argue with his commercial success.
mm,
So that's pretty good. And then there was
yeah.
another one called Bird by Bird. I can't remember the name of the writer for that, but if you look up
Anne
Bird by
Lamott.
Bird, yeah,
Anne
it's a
Lamott.
lady,
Yeah, Anne Lamott, I
maybe.
believe.
Yeah, that's a good one because that's
Yeah,
just the way of, how do you eat an elephant if you were inclined to eat an elephant
yeah,
one bite
yeah,
at a time,
yeah,
how do you finish a report on a bunch of different types of birds? You go bird by bird. So
yeah.
those are two good books I would read if you were so inclined. And
Mm,
then there's some like script writing books, a bunch of them. I think Sid Fields or something is the one I read for script writing, which was very good. And you can look at other videos. You could find 30-minute videos. You could find 10-minute videos on different topics. So
mm.
I think those are good. And then just try the different things and see what works for you because everything's not going to work for you.
Yeah, there's like in writing there's the outliners and the planners and the plotters and the pantsers, the people who plan everything out and the other people who just kind of go by what feels right to them, their intuition. And both both are valid. So most people are kind of both,
Yeah.
but some people tend to gravitate to planning everything out, and other people are like go with the muse kind of. This seems like what this character would do now, and I'm kind of more of a pantser with a little bit of plotting, and I kind of it's very loose.
Yeah.
So
A mix. I think a
and
mix is good.
you have different people who tackle the same thing differently. It's like how I always say it is, you know, there's no there's no absolutely wrong way to to do the dishwasher. It's like everybody has their little different styles of where the cups should go and where the plates should go and where the bowls should go. And it's like whoever's doing the dishwasher get whoever's doing the dishes gets to put them the way they want to put them. It's like that.
Mm.
There's like there's certain things that go in certain areas, yeah, but everybody's got their little twist on it, and it's like whatever, it's fine. So there's a lot of advice of like this is how I do it, and this is how everyone should do it, and it doesn't work. What works for a plotter doesn't always work for a pantser, and vice versa. But yeah, but I'm trying to think of what else I'd like to talk about. Um, there was a question I had. Oh, I had an odd question for you about your podcasting.
Okay.
Most people tend to do kind of get attention, clickbaity, but not clickbaity titles on their YouTube um, titles to try to draw in listeners or viewers. And you have a tendency to just use interview with so and so. And I thought that was kind of classy. And I was kind of curious why you did that.
Well, classy is my middle name. So
Yeah, that's right.
that's the main reason. I think it's maybe my experience of watching or listening to or looking at podcasts is it's more about the conversation. So
Mm,
if you read too much of a summary, you might not even start it. So,
mm,
well, like with Joe Rogan's podcast, there was a time I would watch or listen to all of them. And I mean, it's hours of conversation with a knife maker or an economist, or, there's so many different topics they're talking about that maybe if you read the summary about it, you go, I don't need to know about, taxes. But then
Mm,
on the podcast I did, I talked to some tax people. I think one of Jackson and Hewitt's guys, the I think it was the Hewitt from Jackson and Hewitt,
mm,
and what a great conversation. I mean, we didn't talk much about taxes, but he's a big math guy, and then talking about math is fun. But it's not. I don't know if you can encapsulate everything into a title, but if you're out there just looking for something that could be interesting, then it's probably a lot of luck that you come
mm,
across it anyway. So I don't
yeah,
know. Maybe it's the laziness too, which is just I don't want to try to mess with finding out or figuring out the YouTube logarithm, because I'm not sure it really is a thing that I can figure out.
mm,
So, or can be figured out. So I'll just go with what's easier. I'll just put the person's name here and then uh, a sentence or so about what we talked about, and then let's move on to the next
yeah,
thing.
yeah. That's pretty cool. Because I'm I stumbled upon some podcasting resources because I was like trying to learn more. There's not a lot of information about how to interview people, and I tend to do a cross between an interview and a conversation, and I like a lot of back and forth like we've been doing. Because that's kind of what my corner of the internet does. And and I was like, where is the information? Where are the books about how to interview? Not job interviews, which there are
Right.
tons of that. Tons of articles and stuff about job interviews and how to do interviews and all that kind of stuff. Nothing about like podcast interviews. And and so I found some resources. I'll shoot it to you in case you might be interested in it. But it was really insightful. It's like a curated, conversation and making it thing. But I'm like, part of it's good. Is like that's what the hyper conversation kind of thing people want. Um, but also, I like the more authentic back and forth that we have, where you're asking me questions and stuff, and we're having conversation. So I like that as well. And so I'm like, I'm not going to be the pro. I'm not going to be Joe Rogan. It's like it's not happening. It's like,
Well, I
you know,
don't think when he started, he wasn't that great either. Like if you went
yeah.
back, I don't know if they're still out there. And because when I started watching his was in maybe the 600s, and I think he's over 2000 now.
Wow.
And I went back and I was like, well, let's just see how he started out, like what changed. And
Oh,
then I was like, oh, I can't watch these. So it's okay. You get better at talking to
yeah,
it. But if you've ever talked to somebody, then you can do a podcast because it's just a conversation.
yeah,
And I think that's why people listen to it, because it's a conversation where you're learning something too.
yeah.
So it's
What are
it's
some
like
of the
you're in the
learning
room.
journeys you've learned in doing the podcast, whether it be interviewing people or having conversations with them, or the technical end of, figuring something out? So what it's like, I'm just
The
curious.
tech, yeah, the technical side, you can, as I said before, you can go as technical as you want, down to where you record the audio and video separate and then put it into some other program and take out all the dead air and condense it or edit it and all that. You could do that. I don't want to, so I just
Yeah,
record. So you find the technology or the apps out there that do what you want them to do. And StreamYard worked well for me. And I think you just find the one that has the features you like, and then learn how to use it, because there's a learning curve using anything. So you
right.
learn how to use it, and then if for some reason you don't like it after a while, try something else. But once you learn how to use it, you're done. You've got that part, so you don't have to think about it every time. You don't get that anxiety before you do a podcast because you're worried, is the equipment going to work right? And if it doesn't, what am I going to do to correct it? So you'll have little technical things every now and then, like your headphones won't work or your mic won't connect or something, and you have to learn how to troubleshoot and fix those things
Yeah,
without losing, don't lose your cool. and
Yeah.
then you find the stuff that works for you. So I like it the simple setup. It's not the most simple, but it's simple enough to where I feel like I'm doing some technical stuff, but I'm also within my comfort range of it. It's like if you make a cake and you
Mm.
go to the store and you buy the cake in a box, and then you put the 2 eggs in there and you add some oil or whatever, and then you mix it up and put it in the oven. You did some things, but you didn't make that cake from scratch. You just
Right.
assembled some parts. So that's more of like my podcast ability is I'm just doing some things, and like I don't use the RSS feed. I don't do stuff with that, and I don't go through an app or a service that publishes it out to all a bunch of different
Mm.
publication sites. I haven't done that yet. So it's just the one when I use it, it's Spotify and YouTube, and then clips on X and Instagram and
Mm.
YouTube. And I mean, it could be bigger than that. I could go to Apple and put it on that, and I should, but maybe that's the laziness coming in, but also the I'll get to it one day. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's so the podcasting side of the question, the technical stuff, just find something that you like doing so you'll continue to do it, and
Mm.
do it on a schedule that works for you. Don't overdo it to where you get burned out and you're sick of
Right.
doing it.
Right.
Set up a good schedule, keep track of who you've asked to be on, what they said, so you don't keep going back to the same person that said no a bunch of times.
Mm.
Find an app if you're getting guests, find an app that does guests like matchmaker.fm,
Yeah.
and there's some other ones out there too. And then that takes the stress away from, am I going to have somebody for this next show? Am I doing 2 shows a week, one a month, one every few months, whatever? Find out what works for you and then stay on that schedule. Because I think with podcasting, for me anyway, consistency is key. With the podcast I listen to, like I learn their schedule and I go, okay, this is the show I listen to on this date or this time. Or if
Mm.
I miss it, maybe I'll have a few built up and I can listen to them sometime if I'm going on a trip or
Mm.
doing something where I can listen to it. So yeah, that's the technical side of that. I can't remember the rest of your question.
What was some of the art of podcasting that you've learned that's helped you?
The art of it.
Mhm. Like
The,
the interviewing, the talking with
oh,
people
okay.
part.
I think it's just being authentic. And that's why I think that I wouldn't go back and cut parts out of it, because now you might say something in a piece that you cut out and now it's not going to make sense further along.
Mm.
It's the conversation. So serve it up as the complete pie. Like if you made a pie, you wouldn't serve it with pieces already out of it and
Mm.
then push it together and try to make it a different shape. You just
Right.
go, look, here's the whole thing. You don't have to eat it
Right.
all.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I think that.
We're up in an hour, and I really appreciate your time.
Okay.
Um, is there any thoughts or questions you had for me, or some last thoughts that you'd like to um, give me and or the audience of learners?
Thank you for your time. I think
Sure.
that the classic thing of keep learning is good. Find something that gives you a little bit of purpose and then figure out how to accomplish it. Make some tasks that you can accomplish. That sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being on, TR. And my mouse is not working, of course.
Hmm.
There we
So
go.
just be cool.
Now,
Yeah, there you go.
yep, and now it's working. So, for anybody who wants to find out more about NAR Fellowship, you can go to the website, narfellowship.com. And if you want to talk to me, just shoot me an email. It's right there on the website. So, thanks again, TR, for being on NAR Fellowship, and thanks for everybody for watching. Bye bye.